In the golden morning sunlight of a March day in the highlands of Lam Dong, Nguyen Van Min, a 42-year-old farmer, stepped out into his fields with a bright smile on his suntanned face. Nguyen Van Min is no longer a traditional farmer who relies solely on manual labor like his ancestors. In his hand, he holds a smartphone connected to a drone, while beside him stand powerful modern machines. His 15-hectare rice field lies nestled among lush tea hills, where the red basalt soil rich in alluvium has been carefully improved. Today, Nguyen Van Min begins a new cropping season, a season of technology and science, where every step he takes and every rotation of the machines quietly nurtures the rice root system, enabling the rice plants to grow, flower, and eventually produce heavy, plump grains. Nguyen Van Min understands clearly, the success of the entire season begins with the rice root system. Rice is a plant with a fibrous root system. Thousands of fine, milky white roots ranging from 15 to 40 centimeters in length, depending on the growth stage. These roots anchor deeply into the soil to absorb water, nitrogen N, phosphorus P, potassium K, and micronutrients. A healthy root system determines whether the rice plant will tiller vigorously, resist pests and diseases, and ultimately have enough nutrients to transition from the vegetative growth stage to the reproductive stage. That is, flowering and grain filling. The first step was land preparation using the Kubota tractor. Nguyen Van Min started the Kubota 85 HP tractor, its bright orange body gleaming under the sun. The engine roared powerfully across the field. The plow blades spun at 1,800 revolutions per minute, tilling the soil to a depth of 25 to 30 centimeters, and thoroughly loosening the compacted basalt soil left after the dry season. Gone were the slow days of plowing with buffaloes. In just 4 hours, 5 hectares of land were completely tilled and aerated. The soil was turned over, burying the organic-rich topsoil deeper while bringing mineral-rich subsoil to the surface. Oxygen levels in the soil increased dramatically, soil porosity rose by 40%, and moisture retention reached 70% without waterlogging. Why was this so crucial for the rice roots? Before tilling, the soil had become compacted, with oxygen levels dropping to only 5 to 8%. Rice roots struggled to breathe, easily suffering from root rot due to oxygen deficiency, which causes toxic ethanol to accumulate. After the Kubota tractor finished tilling, every young root of the rice seedlings could easily penetrate deep into the loosened soil. Scientific studies show that well-aerated, loose soil increases rice root length by 35% and root density by 50%. The roots could absorb 30% more nitrogen and potassium right from the first week. As a result, the rice plants began tillering 7 to 10 days earlier. By the panicle initiation stage, around 45 to 50 days after transplanting, the root system had formed a massive fibrous network rich in cytokinin, a hormone secreted by the roots that promotes cell division at the shoot tips, preparing the plant for flowering. If the land had not been properly tilled by the Kubota, the roots would remain shallow, the plants would suffer from nutrient deficiency, produce fewer tillers, and result in many unfilled grains, reducing yield by 20 to 30%. Nguyen Van Min smiled with satisfaction. The Kubota today is the golden hand that builds the foundation for the future root system. After the soil was perfectly prepared, Nguyen Van Min moved to the rice transplanting stage. He chose the Jasmine 85 variety, a fragrant rice strain resistant to brown planthopers and cold-tolerant, well-suited for the highlands. The seedlings had been raised for 25 days, with slender stems and strong white roots. Nguyen Van Min did not use direct seeding. Instead, he combined manual transplanting with a mechanical rice transplanter. Each hill was spaced at 20 centimeters times 15 cm, with a density of 25 to 28 plants per square meter. When transplanting, he inserted the seedlings to a depth of 3 to 4 centimeters, so the roots could make maximum contact with the freshly tilled, loose soil. This transplanting process directly affected the rice root system. Upon transplanting, some young roots, about 20 to 30%, were inevitably damaged. However, because the soil had been thoroughly loosened by the Kubota tractor, the roots recovered extremely quickly. Within just 3 to 5 days, new white roots emerged and extended another 5 to 7 centimeters. The rice roots began secreting organic acids that solubilized insoluble phosphorus in the lam dong basalt soil, increasing phosphorus uptake by 25%. At this stage, the root system also released auxin and gibberellin, two vital hormones. Auxin stimulated deeper root penetration, while gibberellin signaled the stems to grow taller. Consequently, after 20 days, each plant had produced 8 to 10 strong tillers. The more extensive the root system, the more water and potassium it absorbed, allowing the plant to store energy for the upcoming flowering stage. If transplanted into poorly prepared soil, the roots would stay shallow, making the plants susceptible to drought, causing yellowing leaves, delayed flowering by 5 to 7 days, and a sharp drop in grain filling rate. Nguyen Van Min carefully inspected each hill. The roots are as white as milk. This season's flowers will bloom evenly and beautifully. The next critical stage was crop care, using the DJI Agri's T40 drone for spraying. This was the most modern step that Nguyen Van Min took great pride in. The DJI Agri's T40 drone hovered steadily at a height of 2.5 meters. Its rotors created an even downdraft, spraying pesticides and foliar fertilizers with 95% accuracy. In just 30 minutes, 5 hectares were completely treated, saving 90% of water and 70% of labor compared to manual spraying. The products used were bio-based formulations combined with targeted insecticides against brown planthopers and rice blast, the two most dangerous diseases in the region. The DJI Agri's T40 drone's impact on the rice root system was indirect but extremely powerful. In the past, manual spraying required farmers to wade through mud, causing chemicals to drip directly into the water and seep down to the roots, harming beneficial soil microorganisms such as nitrogen-fixing bacteria and mycorrhizal fungi. This damaged the roots and reduced nutrient absorption. In contrast, the DJI Agri's T40 created an ultrafine mist that adhered evenly to leaves and stems, with less than 5% of the spray reaching the soil. As a result, the root system maintained an ideal living environment. Beneficial microbes thrived, enabling the roots to absorb 15 to 20% more micronutrients, zinc, boron, manganese. The roots secreted higher levels of cytokinin, which traveled upward to stimulate earlier panicle differentiation. Particularly when the DJI Agri's T40 sprayed potassium and boron foliar fertilizer during the booting stage, 50 to 55 days after transplanting. The roots received strong nutritional signals, enhancing the transport of sugars between leaves and roots. This ensured a smooth transition to the reproductive phase. The outcome was uniform flowering, a pollination rate of 98%, and uniformly filled grains. Nguyen Van Min watched the DJI Agri's T40 glide gracefully like a bird of prey. It doesn't just save labor, it protects my rice roots. Throughout the 90-day growing period, Nguyen Van Min applied fertilizers at precise stages via the DJI Agri's T40 drone. Nitrogen to promote tillering in week 3, and phosphorus combined with potassium to support panicle development in week 6. Each application allowed the roots to receive additional nutrients without burning because the concentrations were perfectly diluted. By this time, the root system had reached its maximum development, average length of 35 centimeters, and a density of 1,200 to 1,500 roots per hill. The roots absorbed sufficient nitrogen to synthesize proteins, enough potassium to regulate water balance, and enough phosphorus to produce ATP, the energy source for flowering. Scientific evidence shows that a mere 10% potassium deficiency in the roots delays flowering, shortens panicles, and increases unfilled grains by 25%. Thanks to the DJI Agri's T40, the roots were perfectly protected, resulting in lush green rice plants with upright leaves and large, healthy panicles ready for the most beautiful stage. Finally, when the rice turned a ripe golden color, approximately 105 days after transplanting, Nguyen Van Min called in the John Deere combine harvester. The John Deere 5-meter-wide harvester moved at 8 km/h. Its rotating blades cut the rice stalks cleanly, threshed the grains on the spot, and ejected the straw in neat rows behind the machine. In just 3 hours, 5 hectares of rice were harvested and stored. The John Deere did not damage the roots, as they had already fulfilled their mission, but it indirectly benefited the next season. The straw was returned to the field, decomposing into organic matter that would nourish the roots of the following crop. At harvest time, the rice root system had completed its historic role. Over 105 days, the roots had absorbed more than 500 liters of water and hundreds of grams of nitrogen and potassium for each hill. Thanks to the Kubota thoroughly tilling the soil, the roots grew deep and wide to maximize nutrient uptake. Thanks to precise transplanting, the roots anchored firmly. Thanks to the DJI Agri's T40 protecting them from pests and chemical damage, the roots remained healthy. And thanks to the timely work of the John Deere, Nguyen Van Min harvested at exactly the right moment when all the nutrients from the roots had been fully converted into starch and protein in the grains. The result was a yield of 7.8 tons per hectare, 30% higher than traditional methods. The rice grains were plump, shiny, and fragrant because every nutrient drawn by the roots had been perfectly transformed. Nguyen Van Min sat on the edge of the field, looking at the now empty land after harvest. The rice roots remained in the soil, slowly decomposing and returning organic matter for the next season. He felt proud. Every rotation of the Kubota, every flight of the DJI Agri's T40, and every pass of the John Deere is a tribute to the rice root system. Healthy roots mean healthy plants, beautiful flowers, and full grains. That is the secret of the modern farm. Not only Nguyen Van Min, but thousands of farmers in Lam Dong and across the Mekong Delta are now adopting this process. The Kubota loosens the soil. Right arrow roots develop deeply and extensively. Right arrow maximum nutrient absorption. Right arrow vigorous tillering. Right arrow the DJI Agri's T40 protects the roots from pests and toxins. Right arrow smooth transition to the reproductive stage. Right arrow uniform flowering and high pollination rate. Right arrow the John Deere harvests at the perfect time, preserving all the value created by the roots. This entire technological chain forms a perfect cycle. The roots are the foundation, technology is the helping hand, and the result is delicious, safe rice grains exported to Europe and Japan. Nguyen Van Min stood up and wiped the sweat from his brow. Next season, he would continue, till a little deeper with the Kubota, apply more biofertilizers via the DJI Agri's T40, so that the rice root system would become even stronger. Because he knew clearly, the farmer does not merely grow rice, he is cultivating the future, a future that begins with those fine, milky white roots working silently beneath the earth.